The Atlantic hurricane season is just about upon us, and this year is set to be potentially another active storm season. Just a couple of days ago, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration released their hurricane season outlook, and that is what we're going to be talking about here. But before we get into the outlook, these are the names that you may or may not see this year. Arlene is the first storm, the A storm, and Whitney is the last storm. But remember back to 2020, how we had 30 named storms in a season? We had to use the Greek alphabet. Yeah, well, the Greek alphabet has been nixed, and we have a supplemental hurricane name list, which, should we get all the way through, we would start over again with Adria. Now, unlike the main name list, the supplemental list does not change year after year, but if a storm is retired, it just gets replaced. All right, so here is the hurricane season forecast directly from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Now, on average, for the last 30 years, we see 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. Last year, we were right at average for the named storms. We were above average for hurricanes and below average for major hurricanes. Now this year, the forecast calls for, well, average conditions. 12 to 17 named storms, kind of right around that average, 5 to 9 of which would become hurricanes, and then 1 to 4 major hurricanes. The major factor in the hurricane forecast this year is El Nino. That is expected to bring us an average year in the tropics. And what El Nino is basically the opposite of La Nina. During La Nina years, you see a cooling of the equatorial waters just off the coast of South America. But in El Nino, those sea surface temperatures are warmer than average, which leads to thunderstorm development, which leads to high wind shear across the Atlantic basin. That extra wind shear should give us a less active year, but the wind shear could be offset by warm sea surface temperatures. So we're kind of having a battle between which is going to take over, the El Nino or, of course, those warm sea surface temperatures. The odds that we see in El Nino for the first half of the hurricane season, June to August, 89%, pretty high, almost a guarantee, and even more of a guarantee, September to November, a 94% chance of El Nino conditions in the Pacific Ocean, which again has the impact on the Atlantic hurricane season. But the sea surface temperatures are certainly going to be the problem. This is the sea surface temperature map across the Gulf of Mexico and parts of the Caribbean Sea, and shaded is sea surface temperatures 80 degrees or above, which is what we need for tropical storm and hurricane development. Of course, close to home is where we don't want those storms to form. But for the first month of hurricane season in June, the most likely locations for tropical storms and hurricanes to form is in the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean Sea, and off the east coast of the United States. And the average prevailing track takes the storms usually either into the eastern Gulf of Mexico or right into Texas. Reporting in the studio, Sean Bellafury, KWTX News 10.